I'm Amanda Shepard, Vice President at the museum, and I'm excited to present Hope Dies Last, The New Armenia by Michelle Andonian. Photographer Michelle Andonian traveled to the historic land of the Armenians to chase the ghosts of her ancestors. Her grandmother was a survivor of the Armenian genocide in 1915, the first genocide of the 20th century. Retracing her grandmother's path, Andonian discovered the churches and homes that Armenians were forced to leave over 100 years ago. She eventually arrived in the now landlocked country that remains proudly Armenia. However, this small nation is a shadow of the former glory of the Armenian Empire. Andonian has traveled to Armenia on several occasions, and her most recent trip in summer 2019 was supported in part by the Fort Wayne Museum of Art in service of this exhibition. The lands of Armenia are constantly changing, and Andonian returns to refresh her series whenever she gets the opportunity. The newest works from the series have been acquired by the Fort Wayne Museum of Art and are now part of the museum's permanent collection. Support for the exhibition is by Tazian Enterprises in honor of Naomi Tazian, with additional support by the Beatrice and Raymond Paul Foundation and numerous donors to the FWMoA Annual Fund. This exhibition is curated by Lauren Wolfer, Associate Curator of Special Collections and Archives.
I have been a photographer my whole career. I mean, since I was 14, I've been taking pictures. So when I graduated from high school and realized I had to work for a living, I wanted to love what I do. So I became a photographer. I grew up next door to my Armenian grandmother in a neighborhood that was full of her friends and fellow survivors of the genocide. So I grew up with these stories and this wisdom and a lot of Armenian coffee and fortune-telling that made a big impression on me. When my grandmother passed away, I realized that we were going to lose that connection. And I felt it was important to document that story. I want to make a record of our time now. Right? That's what photography does. It makes a record of where we are today, who we are today. And I felt that the Armenian story, the story of the survivors, that was going to slip away. I was contacted by Charles Shepard. He was interested in the journalistic and the documentary and the truth of what I was doing. And would I be interested in having an exhibition at the museum, which was like a dream come true, really, to have a museum exhibition. It's one thing to go there to work on a book. You know what your narrative is, you know what your story is. It's always great to go back, but to have a museum exhibition in the back of your mind gave me an opportunity to go to some new places that I hadn't been to, which gave me a whole different perspective on some things. The day I took this picture was at the end of a very long day. We get to the top of this hill, and there are all these hachkars, which are stone crosses. That's what hachkar translates to. They're mostly gravestones or markers or monuments. A hachkar is what was made to teach people about Christianity. It was like a storybook. So we get to this little corner in the village, and all these kids were there. It was, all of a sudden, it was like the Pied Piper. And then when I saw the hachkars, I just thought, oh my gosh, because it was the most incredible thing I'd seen, in days, really. I mean, all the churches were amazing. All places had their own story. But to have this so alive with young life, and to have these kids pointing out the birds or the flowers on the hachkars, because these were their storybooks, literally, even though they weren't Armenian, right? I mean, this was a Kurdish village now. It was one of those moments where the planets align, right? You know, I mean, there's no other photograph like it out of the whole time that I was, you know, photographing. I mean, not that tight, not that focused. They were all very curious about me, just as I was curious about them. The Manoogian Museum loaned us some of their objects for this show. It's an honor to be able to have some of the pieces from the museum that were collected by the Archbishop, who's now in Armenia, Paranavadikian. Many years ago, went through Turkey and collected a lot of these objects that are in the museum that were left over from the genocide. We were able to get on loan a cross, a prayer scroll, and a little inkwell. So the inkwell reminds me of all the monks that were in all these monasteries, hand lettering, hand working on all these different pieces, right? They're like talismans. These were like magic scrolls that people could roll up, carry in their pocket. They would have special prayers written on them if someone was sick. They would have them if they were going to travel. It was like a charm that you could carry with you. And I love that idea. One of the Armenian churches, on the altar, there are all the disciples painted. And so that's the photographs I took of all the different disciples and made the scrolls. So I was walking down, you know, I walked through the church. You go to the church, I lit a candle. I walked outside. I walked down the path to go near the river. And then I turned around and I looked up at the church and I saw these women and children just starting to like come towards me. And I mean, one was carrying an umbrella, you know, the kids were running. I couldn't believe what was happening in front of me. I couldn't believe it. So I'm there with my camera and then with my other camera and then with my iPhone, and I'm just watching them kind of walk down and come towards me. And after I was done shooting, you know, after they had kind of gotten into the spaces, I mean, they were everything was just falling together, just all the right times. I remember looking at my friend and I said, if I get no other pictures on this trip, I'm done. I've got it. When you're working with film, you do not know. You have to anticipate, you have to guess, you have to wonder, okay, what do I have? In this show, all the color photographs were taken with my iPhone. Every single one of them. Because I just wanted to make this statement about this like shift in technology. It's incredible. It's incredible what we can do today. But I still prefer to look back and not know, because if I don't know, I'm still searching for it, right? I'm still working at it. I'm still hunting. I can never stop learning different things about Armenian culture, about Armenian history, because it's so old. And at the same time, during these times, it's been very reassuring to know that we have all survived. Our ancestors have all survived pandemics, wars, tragedies, some genocides, the Holocaust. Things like that make what is happening now in the world, you have to draw strength on what came before us, right?
I hope you enjoyed this tour of the work of Michelle Andonian. For more information on what's going on at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art, visit our website at FWMoA.org. Thank you so much.